We are with Julius Caesar, or Gabe Meister.
I'm smiling because I just saw myself in a little window. I can't believe how. Look, today I'm going to talk about how to draft provisions for complex creative products and services. And what I mean by that is imagine that you're a company that would like to engage a creator to create something interesting for you, an advertising campaign, a video, some AV product, or some, a big presentation, even something like we're at ContractsCon today, where you have many different media products. How would you need to think about those things? Here's the setup here. I'll read it, but you can read it yourself. So I have a side hustle making salad dressing. I was going to try to bring a bottle of dressing today, but I couldn't find one. I decided to create a media campaign to capture the world attention and skyrocket my product sales. I wanted to engage Picasso. He's this talented up and coming artist. Yes, there are plenty of historical anachronisms here. To create all the media for the campaign, the stickiest part of this was intellectual property rights, because there are many different ways to come at this. I want to even step back at the beginning. The two standard ways of coming back at this as a customer of someone who is creating IP for you are, do I need to own this? Do I want to own this? Or am I comfortable with a license? And many of the decisions around the agreement stem from that fundamental decision. So we're going to look at it from two different perspectives. The first is going to be when the creator has all the leverage. They are famous, they're well known, their works sell for millions of dollars, and you somehow finagle them into doing some work for you. They're not going to give you ownership of the materials. You're going to get a license. How do you deal with that? So here in the first part, let's assume Picasso has all the leverage and insists on retaining ownership of everything he creates. He's a delicate genius. He's only willing to give us a license in the materials, and he's understandably concerned about things. He sells works for millions of dollars. Maybe the things that he's creating for us, he's going to want to sell as well. So he would like to give us as limited of a license as he can. So how do we construct that license so that as a customer, we're still comfortable with what we're getting? I've broken this down into 5. These aren't all of the issues, but these are some of the more important issues to think about in this scenario. The first one is, what does the grant need to look like coming from Picasso? What is the copyright license grant? The second is, how do we define the scope of what the license is being granted in or under? How do we define those things to our benefit and to make sure that, for example, maybe this isn't working out, but we want to make sure we're going to get the half-finished things and we can take them to somebody else to use them and turn them into what we need. Maybe we're going to have vast creative differences with Picasso. The third is exclusivity. The question is really whether or not we think we need exclusivity in a license grant. We'll talk about that. The fourth is assignment and transferability. And then the fifth is just a little bit of a note about music. So the first issue, which copyright rights does Caesar actually need? Very quick refresher on copyrights. I know a lot of you know this or could look it up on Wikipedia in 5 seconds, but there are 5 fundamental rights held by creators of works under the US copyright, or authors of works, I should say. The right to reproduce, the right to redistribute, the right to create derivative works of the creative work, and the rights to publicly perform and publicly display. There's a separate making copies of phono records thing, which is not really important here. These are the rights that Picasso has to license. So whatever license we're getting from Picasso needs to include those terms, or does it? Well, let's talk about that. The rights we need depend on how we want to exploit the works. We have to figure out what Picasso is creating for us. What is our goal here? Are the materials going to be used for an advertising campaign? Are we going to want to take those materials and turn them into something else? For us, we're going to take a painting, take a picture of it, and then put it in a video and have it be a montage of different works that other people created. We have to think about what we need, and we have to be flexible. We have to think about what we need changing over time. Leadership changes in the organization, their marketing department goes in a different direction. We want enough rights so that we don't have to go back to the till with Picasso every single time. So my advice would be to be over-inclusive. So here's an example of something that is, this doesn't even include the copyright rights, but this is some additional language you might want to add, including in addition to the rights of to reproduce and distribute, etc. Modify, which is not a copyright right. There is a derivative works or adaptation copyright, but modification isn't a copyright right. Transmit is. Use and otherwise exploit. Use and otherwise exploit is incredibly broad. They're not in the Copyright Act, but why would we want these things? Well, my advice is typically we don't want to have to go back to the till for every little thing we want to do. So if we have some broad language, we can fend off an argument from the creator that what we're doing is not covered by the license. And stepping way back, a lot of our job as in-house counsel or outside counsel is to figure out where the disputes are going to come up and to try to neutralize those in our favor at the beginning, to give ourselves some leverage that we can fight with. And sometimes the use of overbroad language that is not even defined can give us those points of leverage.